Huge news for anyone wanting to buy multifamily real estate. As of November 18th, 2023, you can now buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex with a conventional loan with only 5% down. This is huge because up until now, you would have had to have 15% down for a duplex and 25% down for 3 to 4 units. And I know you're thinking, but I could already put 3.5% down with an FHA loan. And that sounds great in theory, but you'll find that in practice, most of the properties you want to put an offer on won't even meet the FHA requirements. Not to mention, FHA loans are more expensive and harder to cash flow. In fact, as I'm about to show you in this video, you can make an extra 8.16% profit every year just by using a conventional loan over FHA. 8.16% more profit just by changing the loan type. That's how big of a deal this is. My name is Michael. I own a local real estate brokerage here in the Dallas area. And if you're looking to make a move in the Dallas area, whether it's next week or next year, I'd love to connect. I've helped every one of these yellow dots find their little piece of Texas, and I'd love to help you too. Just call, text, or shoot me an email. All that info is in the description below. Okay, let's start with conventional loan limits. There are 2 limits you need to be aware of. The first is you have to live in this property for at least a year. You can only get 5% down on a primary residence. So you buy a duplex, you live in one side, you rent out the other for the first year. After that, you can move out and have 2 tenants. If you don't live in it for a year, then technically you would need to refinance to an awful high interest investment loan, at which point the numbers aren't going to make any sense. So just plan to live in there for a year. The second limit you need to know are the loan limits. Here is the map showing all of the loan limits, and all you really need to know is if you're in this gray area like most of the country, which we are here in Dallas, you are at the baseline loan limits, which is $726,200. There are other high cost areas. All these different colors you see on the map, those are different high cost areas that have different loan limits, but all you need to know from this map is, are you in a baseline area or a high cost area? We're in a baseline, so let's go over and look. Our baseline for 1 unit is that $726,200, and 2 units is the $929, 3 units is the $1.123, and 4 units is $1.396,800. As you can see here, these areas automatically have higher limits, and if you are in one of those high cost areas, it's going to look more like this. So your fourplex can go up to a loan amount of $2,095,200. But one caveat to this, we're coming up to the end of the year. As of now, in October 2023, these are the limits. But from what I'm reading, it sounds like limits are going to go up this year by some estimates as much as 3.9%. Depending on where you're reading, the guess is somewhere between $750,000 to $755,000 as the baseline. So coming up from $726,000 to somewhere in the $750s. But typically, we're not going to know what that number actually is until sometime in November. So based on this maximum loan amount for a fourplex of $1.396,800, if you add your 5% down payment to that, you can buy a fourplex up to $1.47 million, putting just 5% down. So putting just $73,500 down, you can buy a fourplex up to $1.47 million. That's pretty crazy. And just for quick reference, if you were using an FHA loan, your max loan limit for the fourplex is only $1,089,300. So FHA is $307,500 less than conventional. Okay, so conventional has higher loan amounts, but why is it overall a better loan than FHA? First of all, why does anyone ever buy multifamily property? It's always for cash flow. The whole point is you get to buy several rentals at one time on one loan with one low down payment, the goal being just to accelerate your real estate investing journey. You hear about it on every real estate investing podcast, and it sounds so simple, but when you actually go to do it, you find it's nearly impossible to find a decent multifamily property with a low down payment. Because like I said earlier, up until now, to get a duplex conventional would have taken 15% down. To get 3 or 4 units would have been 25% down. That is completely unattainable for most people just starting their real estate investing journey. So then you hear all the time about how you could just put 3% down on an FHA. But what they don't tell you is FHA fees are worse, and outside of the last few years, the rates are usually worse. But the biggest issue is you're stuck with hundreds of dollars a month in mortgage insurance that remain for the entire life of the loan. It's not like conventional where once you hit 20% equity, it drops off. If you take an FHA loan with low down payment, you never get rid of that mortgage insurance. And the other big issue is there are so many FHA rules a property has to meet to even qualify. For example, if you're buying an old duplex that otherwise looks in good shape, but it has window units instead of central AC, immediately that property is disqualified. So for those of you browsing on Zillow, how many duplexes in your ideal price range have window units? Probably all of them. They automatically don't qualify. Additionally, on an FHA loan, you have what's called a self-sufficiency requirement. This means the property needs to be able to cover its entire payment using rental income after assuming a vacancy rate of 25%. For example, a 4-unit with a $5,000 a month payment would need market rents of nearly $6,700 per month just to qualify. So the FHA option realistically leaves you having to buy a multifamily home with basically no room to force any appreciation because it already has to be in good shape and has to meet the self-sufficiency requirement for rents. So you're basically buying a nice property at full market value. There is no way cash flow numbers are ever going to work with 3.5% down with the extra mortgage insurance, buying a nice property at full market value. So even though you can technically use a 3.5% down FHA loan, you literally can't, at least not in a hot market like here in Dallas. It's way too desirable of a market and there is too much demand. I know there are other lower demand parts of the country where this may work just fine, but not here. Now let's look at some real numbers and see how big of a difference it is to get conventional financing over FHA. We're going to be looking at a $400,000 duplex with a 7.5% interest rate, assuming we put 5% down on each loan type. First, we're looking at the FHA loan. Your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that is your monthly payment, is $3,834. $158 of that is the mortgage insurance we talked about that stays on for the entire life of the loan. This is all your cash flow gone. Your cash to close is about $30,554, so you'll need each unit to make $1,917 a month to cover that payment. Now let's look at conventional. Right out the gate, your monthly is lower. It's $3,747. $117 of that is your mortgage insurance, but because this is a conventional loan, you have the option to buy down that PMI up front. You can even have the seller pay for it, or you can wrap it into the loan. But you can get rid of this off your monthly payment out the gate. Doing so lowers your monthly payment to just $3,630 a month. So now you'd only need each unit to make $1,815 a month. So using conventional, getting rid of your PMI, we're talking about $204 a month more cash flow for using the conventional option. That's $2,448 a year in your pocket on a roughly $30,000 investment. That's an extra 8.16% profit every year. That is a massive difference. 8.16% profit just because of the loan type. But what's just as big of a deal as the extra profit is not having all those extra FHA rules the property has to meet to even qualify. It's so much easier to buy a home with a conventional loan. And the reality is most people want to buy the ugly beat up multifamily home so they can force some appreciation and raise the rents. But between the extra property requirements, the self-sufficiency requirement, that's been nearly impossible to do using FHA down payment loans, especially in a hot market like here in Dallas. So now you can actually get a loan for an ugly fourplex, putting only 5% down, and you can make an extra 8.16% profit right out the gate, all because of this one change. If you got any value from this video, please give it a thumbs up so more people can see it. If you've got any specific questions, leave a comment below. And if you're considering buying investment properties here in Dallas, give me a call. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.